In the name of the Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, one God, amen. How's everybody doing today? Glory be to God. It's good to see everybody. I haven't been here in a while. I don't know if you guys noticed, maybe you didn't, but I haven't seen y'all in a while, so I missed y'all. It's good to see everybody. I'm really excited for this series. What's this series called? What's it called?
Becoming the one.
Becoming the right one. Right? That's what it is, right? Becoming the right one. We know that cliche term, like finding the right one, right? Like, how can I find the right one? How do I know they're the right one? I'm trying to find my right one. So what we wanted to do is put a little twist on it. Rather than focusing on finding the right one, we can actually see that becoming the right one is what God actually wants from us. That's what God is looking from us. Right? We like to be putting things in our own control, so we're like, oh, I need to find somebody. And we have this thing as humans in which we always direct focus on something else, like something outside of self, outside of ourselves. Like we're worried about what the other person is doing or this other person, this thing. But in Christianity, it's always look inwards first before you look outwards. So before I'm looking for the right one, I need to become the right one. I need to become the right one. And so I don't know why they asked me to teach this, actually. I guess because I got married recently, so I guess I'm qualified now or something. But this is actually a spiritual thing. It's not really about qualifications. Of course, somebody who's been through it and lived through it and has experienced matrimony and all these things, of course, that's great. But this is a spiritual action. Dating, holy matrimony, these things are spiritual. They're sacraments. Holy matrimony is a sacrament in our church. Just like we get up on stage and we teach about Holy Communion, take communion, confess. Matrimony needs to be taught about. It needs to be talked about. And obviously the step before matrimony is dating. But unfortunately we see the way we go about dating or singleness or even when we're in a relationship, the way we handle our conflicts, all of these things are implications of how our marriage is going to be when we get married. If we don't handle our singleness well, our marriage won't go well. If we don't handle our relationships and conflict resolution well, our marriage won't go well. And so throughout this series, we're going to be looking at different stages leading up to holy matrimony. How should I navigate being single? That's the most important stage, by the way. Raise your hand if you're single. Some guys are like me. Look at me. This is the most important stage in preparation for matrimony. How you navigate your single life. But then you get a girl, you get a boy, you get in a relationship. It's all fun and games for the first couple months. And then there's a conflict. There's a disagreement. There's a I don't feel heard. There's a I don't feel understood. There's a I keep sacrificing. Then what do you do? And so this series will talk about a lot of these things. But today I'm actually going to start from the end. I'm going to talk about, actually let's have you scan this real quick before I go any further. This is just for you to be able to follow along. Everybody got it? Good. I'm going to start with matrimony first. Not being single. I'm going to start with holy matrimony first. Because I feel like if we understand the importance of this sacrament, and we'll talk about what a sacrament means, we're going to be able to reframe our whole understanding about relationships. What would y'all say is the hottest topic people our age talk about in the church or even outside the church? What is it that we talk about the most? Dating, right? Relationships, boyfriend, girlfriend, getting married, all these kind of things. From the age of 18, not even 18, like 16 at least on average, according to my studies, according to myself, around age 16 to the point of you actually getting married, that's all you think about and talk about for a lot of people. For most people, I would say. But why? Why is it that this is the hot topic, right? When we talk about dating, relationships, why is it that everybody's ears perk up? You sit up in your chair, you're really engaging in this conversation. Why? Why is it that we see it all over movies and like TV shows and stuff? It's all about who's dating who, the drama, the tea. What was that one show? Like Love Island, right? I've only seen the what's it called? The UK one. It's good, but not a good example for dating. Good entertainment though. But the reason why this is the hottest topic, there's a couple things. There's earthly things and fleshly things that make this such a hot topic, right? We grow up like being fed like this romance. Like if you grew up watching Disney Channel and stuff, all of these movies, like what High School Music, whatever you want to call it, it's always centered around some type of romance. So from a young age, in your formative years, you're thinking, oh, relationships, dating, I need somebody. I need to get in a relationship. I remember I watched like High School Camp Rock or something. I was like second grade, 10 years old, whatever. And I watched it. I'm not even joking. Like I walked outside, it was dark. And I was just like looking outside, like I'm wondering what my wife is doing. I'm like 10 years old. But this is kind of, we're fed this stuff at a young age. And so we think about it, it occupies our mind. And this is kind of how we think about things. Sometimes it's because we crave companionship. Loneliness is a real thing, by the way. Like you can see somebody who seems to have a lot of friends and be social, and that same person can be extremely lonely. They go home and they feel lonely. They feel they have a lot of friends on the outside, but inside they feel lonely. Nobody that hears them, nobody that understands them, nobody that makes them feel like they're cared about, they're loved. Loneliness is a big deal. And so to cure that loneliness, people seek relationships. They want to talk about dating. They want a boyfriend. They want a girlfriend. Sometimes it's for a sense of security. Sometimes it's because, okay, well, if I get a boyfriend or I get a girlfriend, everything will be good. I will be secure. I have my person. I'll be good. These are all fleshly, earthly things that lead us to look at relationships in a certain way that may not be the best. But the way I want us to look at it is look at relationship as a divine design. A divine design. A holy institution. Something God has created with huge magnitude. Something that's beautiful. Something that's more than just about you. Something that's more than just curing your loneliness. Something that's more than just making you feel secure. But it's something that actually unites you to God. It's something that's a mystery that makes you one with another human being. What is God's design for marriage? What is his design and his intention for holy matrimony? We see early on in Genesis, God looked at his creation, he looked at Adam, and he said, it's not good for man to be alone. It's not good for man to be alone. So from the very beginning of human creation, by our design, God said, you guys can't be alone. It's not good for you. And we see that, right? We see what being alone does to a person. It leads to the depression, the anxiety, the worry, all these kinds of things. There's so many studies about how important it is to have a person, a friend, somebody, companionship, and how not good it is to be lonely. So you don't need the Bible to tell you that it's not good for man to be alone. You know it yourself, that it's not good for you to be alone. But why? On a deeper level, why did God see that and say it's not good for man to be alone? Human beings were created in whose likeness? The likeness of God. The image and likeness of God, correct? What is part of that image? What is part of that likeness? The Trinity is 3 in 1, 1 in 3. They're united in perfect love. They're three persons united in one Godhead in perfect love and perfect unity. And so how are we going to reflect the Trinity? How are we going to fulfill the image of God? Being united with another person. Being one with him in love. Two persons, but one love. We become one body. The man is the head. The wife is the body. It's one. It's part of being in the image and likeness. How can we, what's one attribute of God we all know and always talk about? God is what? Love. How can we be loving? How can we replicate that aspect of his image without something to love? Without somebody to love? Without something to engage in a relationship with? You can't. So for us, by our design, if we are designed to be in his image and likeness, to fulfill that, we need somebody to become one with, to fulfill that image. Some of you guys may be thinking, what about monks? That's another topic. That's a different calling. If you're called to be a monk, this is not a talk for you. Or a nun. But for us who are, the majority of people I would see who are walking down that path of matrimony or seeking that for themselves, or they feel that that is what God is calling them to do, it's required that you become one with somebody so you resemble the image of God. Isolation is the devil's main tool to lead you to sin. That is another reason why it's not good for man to be alone. Isolation is the devil's main tool to lead you to sin. What was the first fall of mankind? It was with Adam and Eve, correct? Who did the devil speak to first? Adam or Eve? Eve. Was Eve with Adam or was she by herself? She was by herself. When man is alone, the devil attacks. When you're alone, he attacks you. He tells you lies. He tells you these things. And that's like Judas. When he betrayed Christ, he ran from the disciples. And rather than return to the disciples, rather than return to Christ, he stayed alone. And what did he end up doing? Killing himself, taking his own life. A man needs a helper. Christ himself, when he was in the wilderness, right? He was by himself. And Satan came and tempted him 3 times. When you're alone, that is when the devil tempts you. He attacks you. It's not good for man to be alone. I know some people are like, I just need to be myself and I don't need no man. It's not good for man to be alone. That's your divine design. I know there's things that lead us to that school of thought. I'm just going to be alone. I don't need anybody. There's a lot of hurts behind that statement. There's a lot of damage and emotional heartbreak from that statement. But at our design, at our core, it's not good for us to be alone. However, there is a time where it is necessary to be alone. It's not good to be alone until a certain point. The statement, it is not good for man to be alone, when did God say that in the creation story? He didn't create Adam and off the bat he said it's not good for man to be alone. He created Adam, and Adam was doing his thing in the Garden of Eden. If you read the verse, right before he creates Eve, so before that, it's not good for man to be alone. There's a verse after that, and then after that is where he creates Eve. The verse after that was Adam was naming the animals. So it's not that God immediately gave Adam Eve. It's not that God immediately gave Adam a woman. There was things that Adam had to do to be ready for that woman. There was things Adam had to do to be ready to receive that gift from God. And so I'm not saying this to you guys, okay, it's not good for me to be alone. By the time you leave today, you're looking for your wife, you're looking for your husband. Hey, it's not good for me to be alone, please. Like, that's not what I'm talking about. That's not what I'm saying. You have to be alone, but at a certain point, it's no longer good for you to be alone. And we'll talk about how you know that. I want to go back to matrimony. I want to talk about marriage. Marriage is a holy institution. Holy institution. Holy means sanctified. It means set aside for God. It means something special, something that God is endorsing. That's the lens in which we have to look at marriage. It's not just you say some vows, you have some butterflies, he has some butterflies. No. It's a much bigger institution. Some people say the purpose of marriage is to have kids. Way bigger than that. Some people say the purpose of marriage is to avoid sexual impurity or immorality. Way bigger than that. Some people think the purpose of marriage is to have a companion to help you do life. It's way, way, way bigger than that. We don't give marriage its due respect. And we see that. How high divorce rates are. How we don't even think about marriage. We don't want to rush into marriage. We want to, let me focus on me for a little bit. Let me, make sure the money is right. Let me make sure the job is right. Let me get my career in order. All these kind of things. That is a misunderstanding of the magnitude of what the sacrament is. We don't give marriage its due respect. We push it off for different reasons. And some of these reasons, like I said earlier, it comes from a place of hurt. Sometimes our perspective of marriage comes from, maybe a bad example we saw, or it comes from sometimes just, who knows? It could be a lot of things. It's multi-layered. I'm not here to kind of put everybody in a box. But in general, we push it away for selfish reasons. We push away the idea of marriage for selfish reasons. Like personal success, stability. Let me ask you this. We have so many sermons that we've done throughout OTYG. What are the two things that hopefully we've preached to you guys? We've preached during OTYG. The two main things. Confess and take communion. Correct? We've always preached that. And if somebody says something like, I'm not ready to confess, what do? We encourage them to confess. Oh, no, you don't be scared. You're confessing to God. Don't be scared. It's to cleanse you. Communion. When someone's scared of communion, we say, no, you don't have to be perfect. It's a medicine for the sick. But when it comes to matrimony, oh, no, I don't want matrimony. I got to get my job right. You're right, bro. Do your thing. That's what we do. Why? We don't push off any other sacrament. We don't say take your time for any other sacrament. Why is it with matrimony we take it so lightly and say take your time? And I'm not saying take your time from the sense of not really vetting this person or working on yourself. I'm saying take your time because I need to get... Where in the Bible does it say get your finances right before you get married? In what place does it say that? God is going to ask us, where did you get that from? Where did you get that you need a house first? Where did you get that you need 6 figures first? Where did you get you need a car first? Why are we pushing off a holy sacrament? We would not make excuses. If we saw an excuse for confession or communion, we would educate that person with love and say this is a wrong understanding. But we come up with so many excuses for matrimony and just accept it. As if it's okay. As if it's not something essential for your salvation. Just like communion, just like confession is essential for you to be saved, so is holy matrimony. A sacrament is the mechanism in which we experience the presence of God. When we're baptized, so a sacrament, let's break it down. It's a visible action, thing you see, with an invisible grace, something you receive. When you're baptized, you see somebody, immersed in the water 3 times. But what you don't see is that person, that child is adopted into the family of God. When you confess, you see a priest in front of you. But what's really happening is you're telling God your sins, and in the process, God is cleansing you. When you take communion, what you see is bread and wine, but it is the flesh and blood of Christ for the remission of your sin. Matrimony, you see 2 people standing next to each other. They look like they're in love. They say nice things. But you don't see 2 people anymore at the end of the matrimony. They come in as 2, but they leave as one body. That's what matrimony is. It's the mechanism in which we experience the presence of God. And if you really think about it, God literally designed our bodies to get married young. Not later after success. In your teenage years and high school, middle school, you hit puberty. And at a certain point, you're thinking about girls, you're thinking about guys, your sexual drive is high. This is the time God has designed you to get married. I'm not saying when you're a teenager, but I'm saying when you're young. That's how your body's programmed. And then when you reach a certain age, we see things like infertility goes up higher, all these kind of things. Your body is not meant to get married late. That is not the design of God. And you yourself is a testimony of that. The way our design is a testimony of that. That we're not meant to be married late after the success, after we buy the house, after we buy the car. That's not what was the intent of God. I know as a society, that's kind of how we are in America. Like back home, people get married younger, or at least back then they got married younger. Now it's kind of going later. But initially, we were meant to be married young, when we had the energy, when we had the zeal, when we had the love, all these kind of things. And it creates a dangerous cycle when you get married late. Because when you get married late, that means you're fighting against sexual temptations longer. And when you're fighting against sexual temptation longer, that means you have a higher chance of falling. And then when you fall to sexual temptation, guess what? By the time you get married, who knows, maybe you had slept with one person, two person, 3, 4, 5. And when you're married to that one person who's supposed to be flesh of your flesh, bone of your bone, you start to compare. You say, oh, I slept with this person. Or you don't, it's no longer sacred to you. It's no longer special to you. So there's this cycle as well, this vicious cycle of when you postpone your marriage, when you postpone your unity with one person, you're asking the devil to keep attacking you. You're not going to win a battle against lust. You're not going to win a battle against sexual morality. But when you push off holy matrimony, that's what you're asking for. And then that creates a mess. By the time you're ready to get married, your brain has already been reprogrammed, rewired into this understanding of being with one person. And then when you're older, is it easier to change your ways when you're younger or when you're older? When you're younger. And so now you get married when you're older and you meet somebody. And by the way, men and women, we are created different. We're wired differently. Like God, sometimes I wonder if he's like trolling. Was he trolling us when he created us different? Because the way we think is different. The way we see the world is different. But it's a way that's complementary. God did it intentionally for the woman to point out the flaw in the man, and the man to point out the flaw in the woman, so we can refine each other, so we can sharpen one another, so we can really fulfill the image that he created us in. But then when you wait till you're older, you're not willing to hear your corrections. You're not willing to hear what she has to say about you and how you live your life. You're like, no, I live my life this way. It got me a house, it got me a car, it got me this money. I don't need to listen to you. And vice versa. It's a disaster. It really is. Like arrows in the hand of a warrior, so are the children of one's youth. This is what the scripture tells us. For a warrior, like his pride, his strength is in his arrows. That's what makes a warrior a warrior. Children in one's youth is somebody's pride, somebody's strength. This is the design of God. But sometimes people push off holy matrimony not because of the finances, not because of the personal success, but sometimes because of fear. Fear. Maybe you didn't have the best luck in relationships. Now you're scared to be committed to one person forever because you're scared it's not going to work out. Maybe you didn't have the best examples growing up with holy matrimony. And you're scared that it's going to become like that if you approach holy matrimony. I read something. It sounds very, it's like you're going to read it and you're going to be like, oh, whatever, like, it's not that easy. But I'll explain it to you. Truth is, rejection means you're one step closer to finding your person. Y'all are like, you've never been rejected, huh? Have you? I have. Yeah, I have. Rejection means you're one step closer to finding your person. That's the truth of it. And even if you're not buying this, which I don't think you guys are, God is the God of rejects. Throughout the Bible, God has worked with those who have been rejected throughout society. He has always been closest to those who've been rejected. I'm making this kind of funny a little bit, but being rejected hurts. I've been told. Being rejected hurts because you make yourself vulnerable. You go out on a limb, like, I'm going to ask her out. And then she's like, no. And then you guys are laughing. It's a scary thing. But if you read the scriptures, the people God worked with the most are rejects. David was a reject by his own family. He was small, skinny, not built to be a warrior. Reject. He was a reject. Moses. He wasn't the best speaker. There was nothing really fancy about him, but God used him to free the people. You can't find me the apostles themselves. In fact, when they were preaching, they said, who are these untrained and uneducated men talking to us? They're rejects by the community. That's who God used, though. There's a story, actually, of Jacob. Jacob, who was renamed Israel. So Jacob, he's a very emotional, zealous guy. So Abraham had a son. His son's name is Isaac. Isaac's son, his name is Jacob. And Jacob, he saw this girl he loved. He just saw her looks. So he fell for her looks. Like 95% of us. He fell for her looks. I'm not going to go into how that kind of led him to a lot of sadness. But he fell for this girl's looks, and her name was Rachel. Her dad's name was Laban. And so Jacob's like, I want your daughter's hand in marriage. He's like, sure, for sure. But before that, I need you to work for me. 7 years of your service, and I'll give you my daughter's hand. And so he works for 7 years. Guys, you waiting for girls 7 years? Yes? Some of y'all look like, you're like, yes, I would. So 7 years he waited. And so he receives one of Laban's daughter's hands in marriage. The story is interesting because it says he slept with her. Her name is Leah. She's not Rachel. He wanted Rachel. He got Leah. He slept with her, but he didn't know it was her till the morning. And he woke up and he was like shocked. He's like, what is this? What's going on? Like, I didn't want you. I wanted Rachel. How he didn't know before, I don't know. The Bible doesn't tell us. But he, after the fact, he's like, I didn't want you. I wanted Rachel. I got scammed. Long story short, he works another 7 years and then he gets Rachel. But I want to focus on Leah. If you've been rejected before, this is your patron saint. If you've been rejected, this is your patron saint. So like, ask Leah for your intercessions. I'm serious. She became pregnant with a child from Jacob. And this is what it says. I don't have the verse, so stick with me. Leah became pregnant and gave birth to a son. She named him Reuben, for she said, it is because the Lord has seen my misery. Surely my husband will love me now. It's a very sad and heartbreaking verse. She dedicates the name of her son to God, saying it means the Lord has seen my misery. Being a reject hurt her. Being a reject broke her. And then she says, surely my husband will love me now. But Jacob didn't. She conceived again. And when she gave birth to a son, she said, because the Lord heard that I am not loved, he gave me this one too. So she named him Simon. Again, she conceived, and when she gave birth to a son, she said, now at least my husband will become attached to me, because I've borne him 3 sons. You see the heart of a reject, how difficult it is? How painful it is? Maybe he'll love me now. Maybe he'll love me now. Maybe he'll love me now. But Leah, as sad as this is, she's not understanding that her value comes from God, not from Jacob. But she sees this. She conceived again. And when she gave birth to a son, she said, this time I will praise the Lord. Nothing about being loved. Nothing about not being seen. Nothing about being rejected. This time I will praise the Lord. So she named him Judah. What tribe did Christ come from? You see how God works with the rejects? You see how he's close to those who are rejected and broken in heart? That's how close he is to them. He came from the tribe of her son, the one who Jacob didn't want. Don't be afraid, because you're striving for holiness. You're not trying, you're striving to attain that image of God through matrimony. Don't be afraid to ask a girl out. Even girls can ask a guy out too. That's okay. That's what my wife did with me. Just kidding. She did. I'm sorry. She's down there. She didn't do that. Don't be afraid. In fact, actually, we have a story of a woman asking the guy out. Do you guys know the story? Ruth. Right? She was in the fields. She was working in the fields. And she sees a guy named Boaz. She's like, oh, he's cute. She didn't say that. But she was attracted to him. And then she received advice, go to his house and sit at the foot of his bed and wait for him to wake up. That's what y'all have to do. I'm just joking. Don't do that. But then when Boaz woke up, he was amazed. He was amazed by her boldness. He was amazed by her straightforwardness and what she wanted. And he married her. Most of the time, it's better for the guys to approach the girls. That's the model Christ gave us with the church, right? Christ is the man example. The church is the woman example, is what the scripture tells. Christ came down and the church found us. So that's kind of how that works better, but we both can do it. But I will say something to the ladies. Please, for the love of God, please, if you reject a man, please don't tell anybody. Please don't text the group chat. Please don't tell his friends. Right? Why? They're miskin. Just don't do that. But even more, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. Rather, in humility, value others above yourself. You would not want, maybe if the roles were reversed, you wouldn't want anybody to know that. You wouldn't want anybody to know you got rejected. We just saw how tough it is to be rejected. You saw what Leah was saying, how hurt she was. If for whatever reason you reject one of the brothers, just leave it. Just leave it. I didn't get to say this, but human rejection often precedes divine election. Is what we see through the scriptures. There's another fear that people have, a fear of failure. A fear of, okay, if I marry this person, what if it doesn't work out? I just can't risk that. If you read the scriptures again, decisions made from fear are usually not from God. If you're avoiding something from fear, God usually wants you to do that thing. God always wants you to work in your uncomfortability because that's when he can change you. If you're working in your comfort zone, you're not going to change. You're comfortable. The thing you're scared to do, the thing you're fearful to do, 9 out of 10 times, that is the thing God wants you to do. Moses was terrified to free the Israelites. He said, I can barely speak. He said, what am I going to say when they ask who sent me? Can you ask somebody else? Lord, I don't want to do it. No, you need to do it. I work through your fear. You're going to see my deliverance when you do this. 2 Timothy 1 verse 7. For God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and a sound mind. Fear, when it's in regards to godliness, fear of a sacrament, fear of holy matrimony, that is not a fear from God. There is something else giving you that fear, and we have to give it to Christ and ask him to remove that fear, because that is not a godly fear. How can being scared of a sacrament be from God? A sacrament is the institution in which his presence is felt, in which his presence is real. How can we be fearful of being in the presence of God? I get it, again, it's not black and white. There's a lot of things that come into that fear, but he has not given us a spirit of fear. That is not what he's done. It was a beautiful quote. I wish I knew who did it, but you don't enter marriage because you are sure the other person won't sin. You enter marriage because you are sure God's grace is sufficient to handle that sin. Your trust is not in the person. Your trust is in God. Your trust is in Christ, not in the person. Which is a scary thing. But so are all the other things that bring us closer to Christ. They're all scary. But that's what makes us close to him. A lot of things people misunderstand is they don't get the purpose of matrimony. Marriage is not meant to make you guys happy. I'm sorry. In the process, God willing, it does. And I hope you do, it does. I hope you are happy through your marriage. I'm happy, by the way. I'm very happy. But the purpose of marriage is to make you holy before it makes you happy. It's to make you holy before it makes you happy. That's what we need to understand. For this to work out, for us to find, or for us to become the right one, or for us to really understand what God wants for us in terms of who we marry, who we date, it requires our proactiveness and it requires our synergy. Synergy just means cooperation. You can't just expect God to bring the woman of your dreams to your front porch. Like, that's not how it works. As much as we would like that, that's not how it works, and vice versa. With all gifts, because matrimony is a gift, a sacrament is a gift, it requires an action. At the very least, it requires you to receive it. So you have to do something about it. But there's things that we do when God has brought us somebody, but we push that person away. We're probably all guilty of that. God has, I'm very positive, especially if you're single, God has brought somebody into your life that would have been a great candidate for you to marry, but you pushed them away for some reason. Have y'all heard, oh, he's just like my brother. Oh, he's like my sister. Like, she's like my sister. Like, we kind of like grew up together. Like, especially those in the church and who served for a while, everybody's your brother. That's you pushing away potential blessings. That's the truth of it. When you put somebody in the friend zone, oh no, that's my bestie. For a guy to hear that, it's like he drops to his knees. These are people God has put into your life. This is what Solomon says. You have stolen my heart, my sister, my bride. You have stolen my heart with one glance of your eyes. It's not his blood sister. It's all right, guys. It's not his blood sister. But he's saying this is a form of intimacy. And it's an analogy, but an analogy works still. It shows intimacy. Think about it. What is a sister? What is a brother? It's someone who shares your values, your morals, who looks at life the same way as you. It's somebody who's so close to you, someone who's your blood. Why would you not want somebody that close to you, that understands you, that you feel like this sense of unity with? Why would you push that person away? Sister, in this context, it implies a sense of intimacy beyond just sexual attraction. Intimacy intellectually, intimacy emotionally, intimacy spiritually. We have many of these people that God has put in our life, but we've said, I don't want that gift, God. That's my brother, that's my sister, that's my best friend. I mean, there are people that do fit that role in your life. But you got to think twice next time you say that, because you don't know if you're denying a blessing. I think the reason why we do this, and we have this thing of human beings wanting something we can't have. So when we know somebody likes us and it's like secure, we don't really want it. We'd rather chase the butterflies, the uncertainty, something that we can go out and earn and get and feel accomplished by. But the person that's there that says, oh, I have feelings for you, that's not exciting. That's the truth. Sometimes we mistake safety as a lack of romantic chemistry. But in fact, it's those people who will make your matrimony sweet. Those people who are so close to you, you're willing to call them like a brother, like a sister. Think twice next time. What is your guys' opinion on soulmates? Is that a thing? Is there one person God has created just for you? You guys think so? What happens to people whose partner, God forbid, passes away then? Was that just not their soulmates? You know? Or what are people who marry multiple times? Then who was their soulmate? Right? Soulmate is not something that we accept in Christianity, that concept of soulmate. It's not accepted in Orthodoxy. It's not taught. In fact, it comes from Greek mythology. Like it's a story of like, you you were cut in half and like you're trying to find your other half. Like it's some type of Greek mythology. But it's not something that is ever talked about in Christianity or Orthodoxy. In fact, the only soulmate Christianity knows is Christ. He's the mate of my soul, the only one. But there's no such thing as a one person that God has set aside just for me. No, this is where the synergy and the cooperation works. You work and you discern through prayer, through asking God, through getting counsel from people, and you pick and you find that person for you. But God doesn't just say, I created this one person for you. No. In fact, if he did that, that would compromise free will. Because if he'd already made it for you, you didn't have much of a choice, did you? And if you compromise the free will of God, that makes our whole religion fall apart. I want to go back to this. So we talked about marriage being a great institution. I want to talk about marriage as a mystery. Because it really is a mystery. Like you see people walk down the aisle in the church, you see two of them, they leave the church, one. That's a mystery. And this mystery is so great, so big, so vast, that is the best way in which Christ talked about his love for us. When Christ is thinking, how can I explain to them my love for the human beings? He used the analogy of a marriage. That's the analogy he used to describe the relationship with us. He could use any analogy. He could use the analogy of a farmer with his sheep. He has, we call him the Good Shepherd. But what he speaks about in the most detail, in the most way that encapsulates his love, is marriage. If you read the Bible, it talks in Genesis, the first 2 chapters, the second chapter, it talks about a marriage between Adam and Eve. And then in Revelations, the last book in the Bible, talks about the marriage between Christ and the church. The beginning and the end of the Bible talk about marriage, highlights marriage. This is all intentional. It's not a coincidence. Marriage is everything. It's what makes us really understand the love God has for us. It's everything. Right? Even if you look at the story of like Adam and Eve and compare that to Christ and the church, you see so many parallels. Right? Adam, he went to sleep, correct? Christ put him under sleep, and then he created Eve from him. Correct? Christ, he went to sleep, meaning he descended into Hades, he died in the flesh, to be united to who? To us. Eve was born from Adam's side. Right? He took a rib out and he created her. The church was born from the blood of Christ, which when he pierced in the Gospel of John, blood and water came out. That's what our birth was as the church, from his side. These are not coincidences. This is intentional to show you the magnitude of what marriage is, what this relationship is like. Adam looked at Eve and he said, you are bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. Christ, he looked at the church and he said, you are my body. You see those parallels? This isn't just poetry. This is God's intent to show you the magnitude of this. You marry somebody, and Christ, he says he's the head and the church is his body. It's the same thing when you marry somebody. You're their head, she's your body. You cannot do anything against your body. You guys move as one. You are no longer two flesh, you're one. You can't say, I want to do this, and the wife is upset. The wife can't say, I want to do this, and the husband's upset. You can't do things that your body doesn't want to do. You are united into one. John Chrysostom and St. Paul, they talk about this in terms of adultery and lust. Don't you dare give your body up to another woman that's not your wife. Don't you dare give your body up to another man that's not your husband. That is not your body. But that belongs to your husband, and that belongs to your wife. You guys are one. And in that process of you becoming one, you become one with Christ. How else are you going to learn how to be sacrificial? Wasn't Christ the biggest, he was a sacrificial lamb for us. We were the most disobedient. the most evil, the most selfish, the most wicked. Yet he sacrificed himself for us. In a marriage, you're going to feel like the other person is the most evil, the most wicked, whatever. Sometimes that may happen. But we look at Christ and what he did for the church, and we say, I need to sacrifice. I need to listen. I need to care. I need to understand. I need to be patient, because Christ was that with his church, with his body. That's how Christ treated his body. Men, that's how you treat your body. And what does this body do? What does the woman do? We'll talk about this later, but she submits to her head. And some guys are like nodding, like, yeah, finally you got to that part. What happens before this submission? You ought to die for her. You ought to give your life up for her. As Christ gave up his life for the church. If you even think about it from just like you step out from like the theology of it, marriage is insane. It's crazy. Right? Someone leaves his family or her family to unite herself to a complete stranger most of the time. And the families are happy about it. Have you thought about that? You spent at least 18 years of your life with these parents who brought you into the world. And then you see some, handsome guy. You're like, yeah, I want him now. And you leave your parents' house and they're happy about it. They're like, yeah, sure. That's a mystery. Does it make sense? That's how you see the magnitude of this mystery from God. Right? The groom. He hasn't known her the majority of his life most of the time. But when he meets her, for whatever reason, he prefers her over his friends, over his family, even over his own life. It's a mystery. A girl who didn't grow up with the groom, she sees him and she prefers him. She leaves her parents' house. And she immediately loves and cherishes that man. That's a mystery. But then you look at the example of true matrimony, Christ and the church, and we see Christ did the same thing. He left his Father's house. He left the throne. He left the kingdom to come to his bride, to come to the church and unite himself with her, to come to somebody who didn't recognize, who didn't accept him, who didn't want him, yet he still united himself with her. That's what he did. I'm going to wrap up now for the sake of time. What I want you guys to take away, because I wanted to start off with this. I wanted you guys to see how important matrimony is, how big this is, because you're not going to really take to heart how to navigate being single unless you understand how big this matrimony is. You're not going to take to heart how to navigate being a good boyfriend or a good girlfriend until you understand how great this mystery is. The thing you need to understand is the devil, he tells lies about the sacraments because he does not want you to experience the presence of God. Don't confess to a person. Why do you need to confess to a priest? Just confess straight to God. Or you don't need to confess, like surely God knows your heart. That's a lie. Don't take communion. You're not pure enough. You're not clean enough. That's a lie. Don't get married. You're not financially stable. You're not secure enough. That's a lie. That's my goal today, to expose these lies. It's not true. It's not from God. It's not from the church fathers. That's something the devil has lied to you about, to keep you from experiencing the presence of God through the sacrament. And I'm going to tell you guys this one story, and I'll wrap up. There is this unbelievable story in the Bible from the book of Hosea. Have you guys read? Raise your hand if you're familiar with that book. Some people are familiar with that book. It's a very interesting book. So this book takes place when the northern kingdom and southern kingdom had already been split for about 200 years. So Israel split into two kingdoms, the northern kingdom and the southern kingdom. The northern kingdom is very evil. They literally spend 99% of their time before Christ worshiping idols, practicing sexual immorality. They really forgot about God altogether. And God would constantly send prophets to tell them, hey, turn back, hey, turn back. This leads to destruction. This leads to death. But he ends up sending this one prophet, Hosea. And he says, I don't want you to preach to them. I want you to show them what they're doing. And he tells him to go marry somebody named Gomer, or Gomer. And this woman, God, through his foreknowledge, he knows that she is going to engage in sexual immorality. She's not going to be faithful to him. And Hosea knows this, but he obeys. And he finds her, he marries her, he loves her, he cares for her, he takes care of her. She has 3 kids with him, and then she leaves. She leaves and starts having relationships with other men. And Hosea, you gotta understand, like, he's a human being. He has 3 kids with her. The kids are saying, where's mom? What happened? Where'd she go? This is heartbreaking. This is devastating. What does Christ tell Hosea to do? Does he say, I'll leave her? Does he say, don't worry about it? He says, go show your love to your wife again, though she is loved by another man, and she is an adulteress. Love her as the Lord loves the Israelites. That is marriage. Not getting cheated on, that's not what my point is. But this love that is sacrificial, this love that is patient, that is kind, that is not arrogant, that is not envious, that is not boastful, that does not seek his own. This is the love that marriage is intended to show you. The love Christ had for you, because you are Gomer. You are the one who chose other gods for yourself. You are the one who chose something other than Christ. You are the one who chose sin over Christ. Yet Christ still came down and found you. Just like this story is insane, it's wild. Why would God want him to go back to the woman who cheated? Because that's what Christ did for you. That's what he did for you. Even while Israel cheated on him, like Gomer did with idols, God still pursued her. And he continues to pursue you as well. There's this notion of, I need to find Christ, or I need to seek Christ, I need to look for Christ. You are not the one who finds him. You are not the one who begins to look for him. He has been looking for you. Before you even think to look for him, he's looking for you. He's already went to seek you. In the midst of your sin, he is going to seek you. When he went to find his apostles, did his apostles seek him first, or did he seek him first? When Zacchaeus was in the tree, he said, Lord, I saw you. He's like, no, I saw you even back before. I saw you before you even were looking for me. Christ's eyes is always on you. That's what you need to understand. Through your fear of rejection, through your fear of matrimony, Christ's eye is on you. His eyes are on you. He's seeking you. He's searching for you. He's looking for you. And he's going to help you. You just have to be willing to be found. And he will walk you down the aisle of holy matrimony himself. So the goal of this series is to have an understanding of how to navigate different stages leading up to holy matrimony. Is to really reframe our understanding of holy matrimony. And so I hope that God is with us throughout this series. That is where we're going to stop for today.